So you've seen a massive change over the 25 plus years that you've been here. What did it look like, and how far did the vineyards extend into kind of like the Wairau and up the Brancott when you first arrived?
The Brancott was fairly heavily planted. It was one of the first Montana blocks that was planted in the very early days. But a lot of this, and none of this hillside vineyards were in existence at all. In fact, a lot of the hillside vineyards have been planted since the Southern Valley's irrigation scheme was installed, which pipes water from the main river up into the Southern Valleys. So this is quite a water scarce locality. You've got to dig very deep to find water here. Whereas in the middle of the Wairau it's very abundant. It didn't extend. I mean, when I arrived in Marlborough, it was more of a case of farming land with the odd vineyard here and there.
These vines here, are they dry farmed?
No,
no,
all irrigated.
All irrigated. Is it?
There are a few dry farm vineyards, but not very many. 2010 was very good.
Yeah.
9 was very good for some varieties. I thought it was very good for Sauvignon Blanc. It was a little bit tricky for Pinot. We had some early, especially these hillside vineyards. Pinot Noir ripens pretty early, and on the hillsides it sort of brings it forward even more. And we had some sort of very early season rains, and there was some botrytis in some of the Pinot. And fortunately we have sorting facilities where I make my wine, so all the fruit was sorted, and we actually rejected about 25% of the fruit. So we're looking down here into the Ben Morven. I'm not sure whether this little valley here has got a name, but I guess it's all part of the Ben Morven system.
Okay.
Yesterday we were at Arntsfield, which is just over that ridge.
Yep.
So that's the Ben Morven, then flowing out into the Wairau. So looking across sort of to the centre of the Wairau across here, Woodburn.
And then
in this direction we're looking in. This is where the Greywacke Pinot Noir comes from. All this sort of face through here. It's sort of a north-west facing vineyard, I guess. And we're looking down into the Brancott Valley. Well, what's known as everyone calls it the Brancott Valley. Technically, it's the Fairhall Valley. In fact, there used to be a sign at the beginning of the road that said Fairhall Valley. For the stony soils of the Rapara is fantastic Sauvignon Blanc country. I mean, it's all good for Sauvignon at one level or another, but the Sauvignon really likes that sort of very free-drained, early ripening soils. Whereas these valleys here are very different. The soils in Rapara are sort of stony river stones. Well, it's Greywacke rock river stones, and sort of sandy loam. Whereas the soils up in this part of the valley are much older, sort of wind-blown clay loess soils. So they're sort of gravels, loess, clay loam soils. So they're very even soils, and it's fantastic for Pinot Noir in particular because you get those very even. The soils have more soil moisture holding capacity. We've over the years we've discovered that these southern valleys is the place to grow really good Pinot.
What would be the best vintage that you've seen in your kind of residence in Marlborough?
Oh, there have been a number of best vintages.
You're going to sound like Bordeaux. So within 10 years you'd kind of covered pretty much every base of good and bad vintages, difficult.
Oh, this is all grey. Well, we had a really good run. The last 3 have all been excellent. 10 was probably my pick of those 3, if I had to pick one. 11 was very good, but 10 was good.
What made 10 so good?
We tend to make our best wines here in the average years, when it's sort of average heat, which I guess is a good sign.
Yeah.
The cooler years are more difficult, but the sort of hotter years like 98 wines were all a bit lacklustre. 01 would still be good. 96s would be getting a bit old for Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
Under a cork. Back then we were using corks. You might find a good bottle. I guess 15 years old is usually about the extent of Sauvignon Blanc. A well-made Sauvignon Blanc from a reasonable vintage where there was not really much botrytis effect, and especially under screw cap, which should last a decade. And very, very different. They're completely different. My preference is always to drink them when they're young. sort of within the first 12 months, really. They tend to go through a bit of a slump when they're sort of 3 or 4 years old. They don't, they lose their primary fruit, but they haven't developed the sort of secondary characters, so they can go through sort of a midlife crisis. And then later on they sort of develop the complexities of more maturity, and some of them age a little bit like Riesling, not so much kerosene character, but they sort of become more savoury and a little bit softer in the palate.